Welcome back to How to Make Live AR Pictures. In this extra movie, we're going to look at how we can put our AR app inside another app that we might have already created, or in this case, what we're going to create now. So I'm going to go to File, New, and then choose Project, and I'm going to choose a single app view. Just going to give it a name, and the name doesn't really matter. I'm going to focus on the school name. So we're going to be St. Mary's AR. Now I need to choose where I'm going to save it. I'm not going to have a Git repository for this, but everything else is okay. So I just need to look where I'm going to put it and hit create. So you might put that in your documents folder or something. Let's just make that full screen. And we'll just move down to our storyboard and we'll just start dropping on some buttons and labels. This is mainly so that we can segue across to where we're going to have our AR view, like our AR window. So I'll start by adding a label, and it's just a matter of searching in our library, roughly dropping it in place, and then just providing some details. So I'm just going to give it a title. Doesn't really matter what we have here in this case. This will be more specific to you as you're making your application. So I'm just going to speed up that process so that it's a bit quicker, and you can see I'm just adjusting sizes and getting it lined up for us. Okay, so now I'm going to add a button. This is going to be for our segue, so I'm just going to drag that on. And now let's just give it a title, call it Start AR, make the font size a bit bigger, and just get that nice and centered. I've sped that up there, so it might look a bit quick. Okay, so now we have to get ourselves ready for where we're going to go with this. So just zooming out in our storyboard, we're going to need to add another view onto the storyboard that we're going to segue across into. So I just search for View Controller and then just drag that over in place. So a lot of this seems familiar to what we've done before, especially when we've done the segue tutorials. I'm just going to give a different color, I'm going to give it a black background so it really stands out with the AR parts. Now we need to add our AR component to this. We didn't need to do this in the other tutorial, but we need to look for a thing called an AR Scene Kit view. Once you've located that, you can drag that over and put it into our view. Now, as you can see, I'm scrolling this quite high. I'm on an iPhone XR view, and I've gone above what we would class like into where the notch is as such. So that allows me, when I do my constraints, which I'm doing there, I can do 0, 0, 0, 0, and you can see how it pushes into all the corners. Okay, so you should end up with something like that. Now, at this point, we need to actually start getting our code ready for our AR view. And this is something you may not have done before, depending on the tutorials you've followed. But essentially, we have to attach a Swift file, a file with code, and then link it to the view controller that we can see in our storyboard. So now let's have a look at the view controller.swift file that we already have in our project. This is the one that's linked to the view controller that when we first started our template. So when I have that open together, the code needed for that view controller is there. When I select our new view controller, it goes to this like random piece of code, and it's not actually what we really want. So we need to add our own file and create that link. I don't know why it even shows anything, to be honest. So now what I'm going to do is go up to File and choose New File. Okay, that pretty much makes sense. But I'm going to choose this Cocoa Touch class. The reason we do that is because it will give us some code built in without us doing much work. I also need to make sure I've got the subclass of UI View Controller. That's really important. And then as you can see, I've given it a name. Name is significant. So I've called this AR View Controller. So it's quite clear that it's a View Controller Swift code, but I've linked it to call it the AR part of my app. So that's why I've come up with that name. So now I just need to hit next and make sure it's saving inside my project, which it should by default. And we suddenly get this new file attached, which has got the name and everything we needed. You notice also that it's got some code there. And that is because we chose the UI View Controller subclass when choosing our template. Now what I'm going to do is return to our storyboard and link the view controller in the storyboard to the Swift file that we've just created. So I need to make sure I've clicked on that top bar, and then I go to that attributes area And the top line there says class, and I choose AR view controller, which just so happens to be the Swift file that we've just created. So that's how we create that link. They're now linked together. And as you can see now, when I go to the dual view and click on that view controller, it links directly to our code. Now that we set that up, what we need to do is copy our code over from our AR project that we created following the other guides. So the first thing that we need to do that is locate that Xcode project and open it up. So I've got that here. Now we just have to select key parts and bring them over. So the first part is above our class. I need to make sure I grab those 4 lines, go back to my new project and paste them in. Now returning to my other project, I grab everything inside the view controller class. So I'm just going to select from that top line, drag all the way down, make sure I don't go too far. So now I'm just going to copy that and then return back to the new project, highlight what is in there and delete it, and then paste in the code from our working project. So it looks good to me. So I'm just going to start looking at our AR view controller Swift file and seeing if we can find any problems with what we've copied. Okay, so our first problem, it's saying on the line scene view.delegate equals self, it says cannot assign value to type AR view controller to type AR scene view delegate. So we need to try and figure out what is going on there. And it comes down to the fact that our class is called AR view controller, which is the name of our Swift file, and it's the one that we've linked to our AR project. When we copied that over, we also copied over the code that has the extension to that, still called view controller. So we just need to add AR to the front of that. So they're now linked together because we're extending on our class that we have in our project. Now, if I build that, it's now going to work. So everything looks really good. I'm quite happy with that. So now we need to return back to our storyboard and start doing some linking so that everything's good, like our outlets and stuff like that. So once you've got your screen set up, just like I have using the dual view, what you need to do is locate the IB outlet var scene view AR scene view line in your code. And then from there, look for that plus button. And we just need to drag that over to our scene view in our storyboard. And that creates the link to that outlet. And we can see it's working because as I hold my mouse over the plus button, there's a bit of a highlight over that area. Now this is done, that's our code working, we need to add our assets, so all our images that we're going to use to be recognized, like the bird and stuff like that. So we return to the assets folder and we add our new AR resources, just like we did before. Once you've located them, it's just a matter of going through the same process that you went through in the guides of dragging the images over, and then we have to give them a good name, and also set our sizes. So I'm just dragging them over, and once they're all in, I'll just do the first one and then we'll speed through the rest. So if you remember, we click on the image, we change its name, that's beach, and then I'm going to go to inches and make sure the size is 6.5 for the width, and then I'll just keep going. And just remember, when you get to the movie file, the 6.5 is on the height and not the width. That's really important. So I'm just waiting for that to finish building and it should look really good. And now I'm going to add my movie files and they just go into like the root folder. So I just drag them over and they've all been added. So that looks really good. Pretty happy there. Okay, before we can actually run this, we've got no way of seeing our AR view at the moment because we haven't set up a segue. So let's do that. So from my button on my first view, I'm just going to control drag over and choose show for my segue type. And that should add that in. And everything looks good there. Now I'm going to add a button so that we can dismiss the AR view. So I'm just going to search for that in my library. Just going to put it up near the top. Now, when you make your app, you might make your button look a little bit better than mine. Maybe put an image there or something. Just going to zoom in so it's more visible. I'm just going to call my button something really simple like dismiss. Give it a bit of a bigger font so it stands out. I think that should be fine. Just get it right into that corner. And now I'm just going to add a couple of constraints. So it's 0 from the top and then 20 from the right. And just add those two constraints there. So that will keep it nice and lined up. Doesn't matter what screen we're on. Okay, so now that has to become our dismiss. So we can dismiss that window. So we need to set that up back in the view controller for the first view. Okay, so under our view did load function, I'm going to add an unwind. So if I just start typing that, I can fill it in. So this is going to be called unwind to main. And then we just remove the lines of code inside that function, leaving it empty. And with that created, we can return to the storyboard and set up the link through the dismiss. So if I control click from my button and go up to the exit part, from there my option should be unwind to main. So that should give us our dismiss, because we're not doing anything fancy, we're just removing it from the screen. We're getting really close now to running this. But one thing we have to allow for is the fact that the camera needs to have access. So we have to allow for that in our info.plist file. So you just open the info.plist file, hit the plus button, and we're searching for privacy, camera, usage, description. So that's just going to mean that when the user opens the app, it will ask to use the camera. And I'm also going to add bundle display name so that the app can be renamed something else on the screen, meaning that we can have a different project name to what the app icon looks like on our iPhone. Now the last thing I'm going to do is return back to the AR view controller Swift file, and I'm just going to look for a line that talks about statistics. And at the moment we've got that set to true. I'd like to hide that now because I think it looks a bit more professional not to have it there. So I'm going to change that to false. Now I'm going to choose my phone to run it on and hit build and run, and everything should work. Just see that loading up now. And we're just going to check those few settings. So we should get a pop-up asking about camera access. Let's hit start. And there it is. So it's saying would like to use your camera. So we'll say okay. And then it's going to start working. And then we just hold it up and check that we're getting the desired effect. That looks awesome. Now we also got the dismiss button, so I can dismiss that and we return back to our initial view. Let's try it again. Start AR, look around. We can even see bird up in the top there and hit dismiss. And we're back to our main view. I hope your app worked out well, and I'll see you in the next movie.